The snow fell like a slow curtain that night, thick, relentless, swallowing the town whole. Streetlights flickered against the blizzard's white fury, painting halos in the darkness. Cars were left stranded, doors frozen shut, their owners long gone. The wind howled through empty streets like something alive, a beast made of frost and loneliness. At the edge of town stood a small wooden house, its roof sagging under the weight of winter, its windows glowing faintly gold. Inside, Margaret Hill, 72, sat knitting beside the fire. Her house smelled of pine logs and cinnamon, the faint warmth of a life once shared. Her husband, John, had been gone for 9 years now. Her children lived in cities too far and busy to call. Tonight, the only sound was the soft click of needles and the storm clawing at her window panes. She whispered a small prayer as she did every night, for the lost, for the cold, for anyone wandering alone in the dark. What she didn't know was that beyond that prayer, past the storm's icy veil, engines growled like thunder. 15 motorcycles, chrome buried beneath snow, roared through the night, fighting wind, frost, and fate. Men who were feared by many, known by one name that made strangers step aside, Hell's Angels. When the storm drove them off the road, when frostbite began to creep into their bones, they stumbled upon a single light in the dark, Margaret's light. And when those 15 men knocked on her fragile wooden door, something extraordinary began. It was the night kindness changed everything. The first knock came like a hammer blow. Thud. 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 Margaret startled so violently she nearly dropped her knitting. For a heartbeat, the storm outside went silent, as if the world was holding its breath. Who would be out there, in weather like this? She shuffled to the door, tightening the shawl around her thin shoulders. Lord, she whispered, watch over me. The wind slammed against the door as she opened it, and the sight before her made her gasp aloud. 15 men stood in her doorway, shoulders broad, faces raw from the cold. Their leather jackets were crusted with snow, each marked by a curved winged skull, the emblem of Hell's Angels. Their leader stepped forward, his breath misting in the air. Ma'am, he said, voice gravelly, we don't mean no harm. Our bikes froze over. We just need somewhere to wait out the storm. Margaret's pulse hammered in her ears. Every warning she'd ever heard about bikers flashed through her mind: fights, fires, danger. But she also saw their hands trembling, their lips turning blue, their eyes, beneath all that roughness, full of exhaustion. Without another word, she stepped aside. Come in before you freeze solid. The men hesitated. One muttered, you sure, ma'am? Margaret nodded firmly. No one deserves to die in the cold. They filed in one by one, stomping snow from their boots. The tiny house seemed to shrink under their size, 15 men filling the living room, the smell of wet leather and cold metal mingling with pine wood and tea. Margaret hurried into the kitchen, rummaging through cupboards. A few cans of soup, half a loaf of bread, leftover stew. It wasn't much, but it would do. Soon, steam filled the air, and the sound of spoons against bowls replaced the storm's rage. The biker sat awkwardly on her floral couch and wooden chairs, too large for the space, like bears in a dollhouse. Never thought I'd be eating soup out of floured china, one of them muttered, earning a few low laughs. Margaret smiled softly. Well, it's the only kind I've got. Their leader removed his gloves and rubbed his hands by the fire. You didn't have to do this, he said. I did, she replied. Kindness doesn't keep well. Best to use it before it spoils. That made the man chuckle. You sound like my grandma. Hours passed. The wind shrieked outside, rattling shutters and shaking the roof, but inside, the world was different. Warm. Alive. Margaret poured coffee, handed out blankets that smelled faintly of lavender, and listened as they talked about long roads, broken engines, and lives lived between highways. She learned the leader's name was Cole. He had a scar across his cheek and eyes like storm clouds, gray, hard, and unexpectedly gentle. He told her they'd been riding cross-country for a charity run when the blizzard caught them. Every motel had turned them away. "Guess we don't look like the praying kind," he said. Margaret's eyes twinkled. "Looks can lie. I prayed for someone to find warmth tonight. Seems heaven listens both ways." One by one, the men dozed off, wrapped in quilts. Margaret sat watching them, firelight flickering across tattoos and weary faces. She felt something bloom inside her chest, a warmth deeper than fire could give. She whispered to herself, John would have liked them. By dawn, the storm was gone. The world outside glittered beneath the sun, snow piled high and pure. The bikers stirred, blinking against the morning light. Margaret was already in the kitchen, humming softly as she made breakfast, scrambled eggs, toast, coffee strong enough to wake the dead. When they finally rose to leave, Cole stood before her. "You saved us last night," he said. "We won't forget." Margaret just smiled. "You don't owe me anything." He hesitated. "Maybe not. But we remember those who show us mercy." With that, they rode off, engines roaring, cutting tracks through the untouched snow until they vanished beyond the horizon. Margaret watched from her porch until the sound faded, leaving only silence and the chirp of distant birds. She thought that would be the end of it, a strange, beautiful memory of one night when 15 lost souls found shelter in her home. But kindness has a way of coming back. The next morning, as Margaret fed the sparrows by her fence, she heard it again, a low rumble in the distance. At first, she thought it thunder. Then it grew louder. Closer. The ground trembled beneath her boots. Down the long road came motorcycles. Not 15 this time, but dozens. Dozens upon dozens, engines roaring, chrome glinting in the winter sun. They came in lines, their jackets flashing the same emblem, Hell's Angels. Her neighbors peeked nervously from behind curtains, murmuring. But Margaret just stood there, her heart pounding. When the bike stopped, the street filled with the scent of gasoline and snow. Then Cole stepped forward, carrying a bouquet of flowers so fresh they seemed impossible for winter. "Morning, ma'am," he said, grinning. "Told the brothers what you did for us." Word spread. He handed her the flowers. Margaret's hands trembled. "Oh, my, you didn't have to, we wanted to," he said. Then he turned and whistled. From the back of the group, men began unloading bags, groceries, firewood, boxes of blankets, tools. They shoveled her driveway, fixed her broken fence, patched her porch door. One even painted the mailbox anew. The air filled with laughter, the rhythmic clang of hammers, and the deep hum of friendship. Margaret's yard became a hive of life and gratitude. When they were done, Cole turned to her once more. "You gave us a roof and warmth when no one else would. This is us paying it forward." Tears filled her eyes. "You boys didn't have to repay me." He smiled gently. "Maybe not. But kindness like that, someone's gotta keep it rolling." As the sun dipped low, the group mounted their bikes again. The engines revved in unison, a thunderous salute. Margaret stood on her porch, waving, tears streaming down her face, as they roared away through the snow, leaving a trail of silver smoke and promise behind. That night, the house was quiet again, but not empty. The fire crackled softly, casting gold over the pictures of her family, the quilts folded neatly, the flowers bright against the frost. Margaret smiled, whispering, "Guess I've got family now, just the kind that rides on 2 wheels." Outside, the snow began to fall again, gentle this time, and somewhere down the road, 15 men, and maybe 100 more, were telling the story of the woman who opened her door in the storm, proving once and for all that kindness is the one fire that never dies. The night the angels knocked, because sometimes, heaven sends help in leather jackets.